Hello and welcome to Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Purdue Pharma appears to be positioning itself for bankruptcy protection. This drug company is responsible for selling the wildly popular painkiller OxyContin. Purdue is facing thousands of lawsuits alleging the way they marketed OxyContin was deceptive. The lawsuits claim those lies got innocent people hooked on the pills and then later street narcotics. In fact, many say this is what started the horrible opioid epidemic America faces today. An estimated 3/4 of heroin and fentanyl addicts first became addicted to prescription painkillers like OxyContin. That includes former paratrooper Matt Gossard, who received prescription painkillers after an injury from a parachute jump. Like millions of others, Matt got hooked on the pills and when the prescription ran out, turned to painkillers' cousin, heroin.
Because it's almost the same thing, except for heroin's just stronger and it's cheaper and it's more available, which is the scary part.
That was in Ohio. In nearby West Virginia, Elaine Vance also started on painkillers, then switched to heroin.
I remember doing the first time I ever done heroin. I remember thinking, this might kill me. I may die.
In 2017, more than 47,000 people died from overdoses involving opioids, including prescription painkillers, heroin, and fentanyl. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is one of thousands to sue Purdue Pharma and others, alleging company execs knowingly concealed the dangers of opioids.
We had a number of pharmaceutical companies that developed pain meds, and they were pushing those out. And they were telling the doctors, these are not very addictive. Turns out they are very addictive.
Filing for bankruptcy protection would stop the lawsuits and would let a judge supervise negotiations between Purdue Pharma and those suing it. In a statement, the company said they are deeply concerned about the opioid addiction crisis and is proud of the actions we have taken to ensure opioids are prescribed appropriately, increase access to the overdose antidote naloxone, and fund youth education programs warning of the dangers of opioids. Every day, more than 130 people in the U.S. die after overdosing on opioids. Matt could have been one of them, but like Elaine and many others, discovered a way out.
I believe that Jesus Christ is the only answer. I believe that there is no other answer other than Christ.
I started getting to know Jesus, and I realized that the same power that rose him from the grave is what fights addiction.
The treatment that works many times has a faith-based component part to it.
The U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Jerome Adams, declared e-cigarette usage among young people is now an epidemic. He points to a number of studies that reveal a spike in so-called vaping among teenagers. For instance, one of those surveys uncovered this fact. More than 1 out of 5 high school seniors vapes at least once a month. Although it's against the law to sell e-cigs to minors, most kids have no trouble getting their hands on them, and even less difficulty hiding them from their parents. The small battery-powered devices turn flavored liquid, which usually contains nicotine, into an inhalable vapor, hence the term vaping to describe e-cigarette use.
And we know that the notion that e-cigarette aerosol is harmless water vapor, something even my 14-year-old son thought was true, is a myth.
Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams and Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar issued a warning to teens and their parents about what many are surprised to discover: vaping poses a serious health threat.
We know that nicotine exposure during adolescence can uniquely harm the developing adolescent brain, impacting learning, memory, and attention. We know that exposure during this critical brain period can lead to further addictions.
E-cigarettes are generally considered a safer alternative to regular cigarettes, but certainly not without risk.
E-cigarettes could help many American adults end their addiction to traditional cigarettes, but we cannot let them ensnare younger Americans into a new addiction.
The Surgeon General and HHS Secretary called for bans on indoor vaping and tighter retail restrictions. Hollywood celebrities are touting the new weight loss craze called intermittent fasting. You might have heard of it and were wondering whether it's safe. Well, doctors say not only is it a safe and effective way to drop those unwanted pounds, it's also good for you in many other ways. The Bible tells us fasting is good for our spiritual health, but new research shows it benefits our physical health too. The latest weight loss craze is intermittent fasting, which means going without food for a long period of time each day. Many people choose to fast up to 18 hours a day and only eat within a 4 to 6 hour window.
What's great about intermittent fasting is that you can do it some of the time or most of the time and still stand to reap great benefits.
Celebrities like Jennifer Lopez, Kourtney Kardashian, Selena Gomez, Beyonce, and Hugh Jackman reportedly choose intermittent fasting to lose weight. But researchers at the University of California and elsewhere say the benefits go beyond looking good.
There are 10 years of really interesting data and very compelling research studies on intermittent fasting, preventing atherosclerosis. There may be cancer prevention benefits.
And protection against Alzheimer's, heart disease, even aging, while boosting the immune system. Fasting triggers the release of old, inefficient cells, making way for new, healthy ones, doctors say.
Even though we would still recommend a healthy, balanced diet, we're not as focused on what you eat, rather when you eat.
So while ancient scripture tells us forgiveness, letting go of worry, and fasting bless the soul, modern medicine tells us these practices also benefit the body. And while intermittent fasting is a new trend that's actually a practice that's been around for thousands of years, so is acupuncture. When we come back, we'll tell you why this ancient practice is now being prescribed in modern Western medicine. Welcome back to Healthy Living. Earlier in the show, we talked about the deadly opioid epidemic and how pain medications can often do more harm than good. That's why doctors are looking for other ways to help treat pain. As it turns out, acupuncture does the trick for many. Like millions of Americans, Kyle Miller struggles with constant pain.
Stiffness, soreness, and discomfort in my back. And actually, for the first time ever, my back totally went out.
This chronic pain is the kind that lasts 3 months or more.
It could be chronic headaches, it could be chronic pelvic pain, which is common in both men and women. It could become low back pain, which is probably the most common.
A complicating factor is that many doctors and patients are turning away from traditional treatment methods.
But really, we look at surgery as a last resort because it's not amazingly effective. A lot of people don't get relief from surgery. It's a lot to go through to have surgery.
Anti-inflammatory medication called NSAIDs like ibuprofen and naproxen can also cause problems.
Taking those too much increases risk of heart disease, definitely increases the risk of peptic ulcer disease, causes other problems in the digestive tract.
And there are also the many issues with prescription pain pills.
Especially now with the opioid epidemic and not wanting to use opioid pain medicines, not wanting to get people addicted to pain medicines, there's a real push on what else we can do.
That's why doctors are searching for new treatment options, such as acupuncture.
It's very well respected for certain conditions, including back pain and many chronic painful conditions. There are very good studies proving its benefit. Some people think it helps highlight areas in the brain that decrease the sense of pain. There are lots of different hypotheses about why it works, but it has been proven to help.
In fact, the American College of Physicians now backs acupuncture for treating low back pain.
What I'd like to recommend for all my new patients is to try it first, before you do anything else because it doesn't have any long-term negative side effects. I like to recommend at least 5 sessions for you to see some changes. And after 5, you'll know if it's going to work for you or not.
Patients of acupuncturist Grace Suze generally undergo 30-minute sessions once or twice a week.
It helps by increasing circulation simply. And research shows that it increases something called nitric oxide, which has been shown to decrease inflammation, lower blood pressure, help with pain management.
And yes, it means needles, but they're super thin.
You barely feel anything. You definitely don't feel them really being inserted. It's not painful. And then, you relax with the needles in for a few moments and it either feels like nothing or honestly, it puts me to sleep.
She only inserts them into the skin's top layer.
Very superficial, so we never go near the nerve or at the nerve.
Although most of Grace's patients want pain relief, she also treats digestive problems, hormone issues, you name it. Believe it or not, acupuncture is often used for cosmetic purposes. I'm getting an anti-aging treatment that smooths fine lines and wrinkles. It's great for people who don't want to use injectables like Botox. Grace often treats people struggling with substance abuse, including sugar addiction.
What I focus on is calming the nervous system down, relaxing the body, helping them sleep. Because if you are sleeping really well the night before, then the next day, your blood sugar is more managed, you're more relaxed, and therefore you'll make better choices.
Whereas acupuncture pierces the skin in strategic spots, acupressure involves applying force to those areas. Massaging this part of the hand treats red, puffy eyes, near the wrist, vomiting and nausea, and the middle of the forehead, stress and headaches. So whether you take matters into your own hands or go to a professional, stimulating the body's natural ability to fight pain and other problems could help you avoid issues from other treatments. Another way we can potentially lower pain and anxiety on our own is by breathing through the nose. Turns out when we inhale through our nose, nitric oxide is produced in our sinuses. This gas is a vasodilator, which opens our blood vessels. And one more note about pain. Doctors say the best way to avoid the most common type of pain, back pain, is to maintain a normal weight and strengthen the muscles that support our back and improve our posture. To see a demonstration of some of those exercises, go to cbnnews.com and search posture. When we come back, you've probably heard of functional medicine, but chances are you're not quite sure what it is. We'll explain it right after this. Functional medicine, it's a new way to treat disease that takes away the emphasis on your symptoms and focuses on the root cause of what's bothering you. Meet a woman who's thanking God for this new approach because it gave her back the life she loves. These days, Cindy Tedrow enjoys life, like playing with her dogs. That wasn't the case when she faced horrific health problems.
I would pray, Lord, if you want me, take me. Just take me.
For most of her adult life, she suffered from infections, fatigue, and pain.
My legs felt like they were cement, and it took that much effort to pick them up and move.
She also struggled with hormone issues and obesity.
I could not lose weight. I could not lose weight. No matter what I tried, I could not lose weight.
Her seizures made life unpredictable.
I would make a commitment and then I would have to cancel. And I know people didn't understand that. And it was so hard.
Seizures eventually forced her to stop driving and teaching. In searching for answers, she visited 20 doctors and took numerous medications. Nothing helped.
They would send me from one specialist to another specialist, and I would have medication. They would give me medication for that particular symptom. And so at one time I was in 22 prescriptions and getting worse. I was just getting worse.
With nothing to lose, she decided to try a different approach. She went to the Cleveland Clinic's Functional Medicine Center, led by Dr. Mark Hyman.
Functional medicine is a new way of thinking about disease that gets to the root cause. It doesn't focus so much on symptoms as the question of why you have those symptoms.
Cindy got better and fast.
In a very short time, she only lost an enormous amount of weight, but was able to end her seizures, to recover her energy, to end her brain fog, and to be engaged in her life again.
An estimated 80% of all health problems are caused by an unhealthy diet, too much sugar and processed foods, and not enough vegetables and healthy fats. Once Cindy started eating the prescribed anti-inflammatory diet, she lost 80 pounds.
The weight just melted away. It just melted away. It's not hard. It is not hard. I basically just stick to real meat, real vegetables. I have to stay away from the carbs.
Functional medicine doctors often recommend supplementing a healthy diet with things like vitamin D, fish oil, and a probiotic.
The gut microbiome has been linked to depression and cancer and heart disease and diabetes and obesity and autoimmune diseases and allergies and asthma. So that doesn't make sense given our current model of describing disease. When you go to the cardiologist, they don't ask you about your gut microbiome, right? They want to know if they should put you on a statin or a beta blocker or an aspirin, and not think about why is there inflammation, why is there high blood pressure, why is your cholesterol abnormal, and fix that.
Functional medicine doctors advise their patients to take steps to feel more peaceful because stress is at the root of so many health issues.
Thoughts, stress, exercise, sleep, and also community and connection, because many of us are isolated and many of us are lonely, and that promotes disease. And in a faith-based world, it's really about connection, community, belonging, meaning, purpose. Those are also ingredients for health.
They told us about meditation, and I didn't do meditation, but I was already praying, and that has made a tremendous difference.
The medical world pays attention to results like Cindy's,
which is something we see routinely in functional medicine. It's something that often traditional physicians are surprised at because these are patients that they've tried for decades to try to help and mitigate symptoms. So we don't go for symptoms, we go for causes.
Compared to the conventional approach of simply relying on big pharma, functional medicine often focuses on significant lifestyle changes. While that's more responsibility and discipline, people like Cindy Tedrow, who've tried both, say the extra effort pays off in the long run. If you'd like to find a functional medicine doctor in your area, go to our website, cbnnews.com. Still ahead, we'll tell you why DNA is not your destiny. The new science of epigenetics tells us how to turn off problem genes. Right after this. When looking at their family tree, people often worry ancestors may have passed on genetic problems, such as heart disease or diabetes, to them. Well, cheer up, because your genes don't have to rule your life. That's because of the new science of epigenetics. It proves that through our behavior, we can turn our genes on or off. If you wish your ancestors gave you better DNA, you're not alone. Epigenetics expert Dr. Sarah Gottfried says we could all use an upgrade in that department.
I've tested a lot of people over the past 12 years in terms of genomics, and everyone has 2 to 5 not so great genes.
Including herself.
I happen to have a problem with genes related to weight gain. So I have one gene in particular called the fatso gene, FTO, and it just makes me programmed to be about 200 pounds no matter what I do.
But as you can see, Dr. Gottfried silenced it.
So one of the ways of turning the switch off for the FTO gene is to eat a low-carb diet, kind of the right amount of carbs, mostly from vegetables. The other thing that I do is I exercise for a minimum of 30 to 60 minutes a day. So high-intensity interval training is really good for me in terms of silencing this gene and making sure that it's not raising my body mass index and making me fatter.
Some people are afraid to take these DNA tests because they don't want to know if they have a bad gene like the one for Alzheimer's. But many experts say it's better to know because there are ways to silence these genes. For instance, in his book, The End of Alzheimer's, researcher Dr. Dale Bredesen lists dozens of lifestyle changes that have proven effective in squelching the Alzheimer's gene for hundreds of patients.
If there are specific exposures, you want to get rid of those. If there are specific nutritional changes, you want to address those. If there are hormonal changes, you want to address those. If there are inflammatory changes, address those.
For example, eating a low-sugar diet, taking certain supplements like curcumin, and avoiding neurotoxic chemicals such as synthetic fragrances.
Alzheimer's disease is no longer a mystery. You don't have to say, we don't know why you get it, we don't know what to do about it. We do know why you get it, we do know what to do about it, and we know how to prevent it.
In his book, Change Your Genes, Change Your Life, Dr. Kenneth Pelletier says DNA is not our destiny.
At first, I thought, like everyone, that genetics determines who we are. Color of your hair, your height, the diseases you'll get, how long you'll live. And then as I got further into it, I realized that was not the case.
For example, twins with the same genes but different lifestyles often experience different health outcomes.
So there may be a 40% that one twin will have heart disease, but not the other. It's very low with cancer, maybe 30%. So all of these very strong genetic pushes for major diseases were not showing up in the twin studies. And they said, what's going on here? And that was the beginning of kind of epigenetics.
So when it comes to our genes, our behavior can carry consequences for ourselves and our ancestors. Experts say some of the best ways to turn off problem genes include eating a diet rich in vegetables, clean meats, and healthy fats while avoiding sugar and processed foods. Also getting regular exercise, plenty of sleep, and managing stress. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Healthy Living. I'm Lori Johnson. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.